The commercial bank delinquency rate in the fourth quarter of last year was 1.19%, seasonally adjusted, the lowest it has ever been. The lowest it has ever been. That's not the problem with banks. This is not a conversation of bad debt. That is not why they're having a problem. Why are they having a problem? Well, what happens when the Federal Reserve throws $5 trillion at the economy? Well, no matter where it gets spent, if it's spent on rent or food or venture capital or on a 401k, no matter what you spend that money on, eventually, you know where it's going to land? In a bank. And lo and behold, $5 trillion of brand new cash turned into almost $5 trillion in deposits. Now, what is a bank supposed to do with all these deposits? What they want to do with it is loan it out, but you're not going to expand your loan base that quickly. There's not enough demand for this. So you do with that money exactly what the Federal Reserve tells you to do. You're supposed to buy super safe securities. You buy GSEs and treasuries and all that good stuff because that's what the Federal Reserve tells you to do. And it is safe stuff. In fact, the only thing that can happen to those value securities is if you know interest rates should suddenly shoot up from 0 to 5%. Aha! But even here, it's not that big of a deal because banks don't have to mark to market. In other words, they don't have to sell, it's not going to sell those bonds, they can just pretend they're full value. And so it's fine, it doesn't hurt their balance sheet. Nothing really happens. Unless, of course, the Fed starts quantitative tightening. Now understand what's going on. If quantitative easing will put money into the banks, inevitably quantitative tightening has to take it out of the banks. And lo and behold, think about what happened over the last 5 months in the banking system. Loans went up by 5%, deposits went down by 2.3%. Well, what are you going to do? You have to sell securities at a loss. Ding, ding, ding. This is the problem. They were made to buy all sorts of securities, and now they're being forced to sell those same securities at a loss. And you wonder why they're under pressure? Silicon Valley Bank, by the way, was the extreme version of this. Their deposits went from $80 billion to $180 billion in a year and a half. They put it in securities. Suddenly, deposits started to go down. They had to sell those securities. Boom! A run happened, and they went into default. By the way, were they actually technically default? We don't know. We actually don't know. It was a run. The bank could have actually made it through, but a run will panic a bank. And that kind of brings me back to what's going on with the Federal Reserve. They're acting out of hand. Hey, look, the Federal Reserve's jobs are very simple. Number one, price stability. Number two, full employment. Number three, be a good shepherd of the banking system. You got that? Full employment, price stability, shepherd of the banking system. Now, here's the key. Those goals don't necessarily line up. If you do one thing for one of those goals, you could put stress on another one of your goals. This is why the Federal Reserve is supposed to be filled with boring bankers and monetary economists, people you never want at a cocktail party, who are going to sit around and truly consider what's going on and the cost of benefits of reacting. That's not this Federal Reserve. Instead, this is a group of politicians who are violently reacting to narratives without thinking about what the hell the consequences of their choices are. Issue number one, in a complete, utter, ridiculous panic over full employment, they blew up price stability. And then in a ridiculous panic over price stability, they're undermining the banking system. And the net result of that, well, we're not sure yet. You know, what really gets interesting over the next 6 months is where does Jerome go now? Now he's got a real problem on his hand. He has two choices. You fight inflation and you blow up the banking system. Or you back off the banking system and you let inflation run. From an economist standpoint, the latter is clearly the right option. From a politician standpoint, particularly a year and a half from an insanely contentious election, the other option is the way to go. So what are you going to do, Jerome? Which way are you going to turn? This is going to be the best movie in town.